Good evening, everyone. It's all over at the San Siro after Liverpool beat AC Milan 2-1 and became the first English side to win all 6 of their Champions League group stage matches. Yet another record for Jurgen Klopp's side this season. Joining me to talk through all the action is Matt Addison. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Like you say, it's nice for Liverpool to set a record. Disappointed, actually, with the way that Milan played tonight. But yeah, from a Liverpool perspective, plenty of positives.
You touched on it. We have to start with Milan. They're the top of the Italian league. It's a must-win game for them tonight. Was it pretty easy for Liverpool, did you think?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it was very similar, actually, against Porto in the game at Anfield a couple of weeks ago. I mean, both of those teams basically needed to win. Liverpool had nothing to play for in either of those games, and Liverpool are the ones who've ended up winning both of those matches. So I think it's a big missed opportunity for both of them. I think both of them are top of the league, or certainly were when Porto came to Liverpool. They were doing well in the Portuguese league and didn't really do a great deal. And I thought it was similar for Milan tonight, obviously top of Serie A, as we've said. But yeah, Liverpool's much changed team just sort of breezed past them, and it was really quite easy. Obviously, the goal that Milan scored, Liverpool can probably defend it a little bit better, but apart from that, they didn't really have too many chances. Liverpool could have scored one or two more. I thought, Liverpool were impressive, and we shouldn't play that down. But Milan, I thought, were really quite disappointing.
I'll come back to the goal Milan scored, but we have to start with Mohamed Salah, don't we? 20 goals already, and it's just December. Unbelievable numbers. He's the first player to get 20 goals for 5 seasons in a row since Ian Rush, which is, a good name to be amongst. Is he the best player on the planet, Matt?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's been a remarkable start to the season. We used to talk about, a team needs a 20-goal striker across the course of a season, really, to compete. And 7th of December, Mohamed Salah has already reached that mark. So it's just incredible. I saw a tweet from Andrew Beasley a little bit earlier on who said he's sort of scoring at a faster rate than he was in his first season at Liverpool. He's 2 or 3 games ahead in terms of hitting that 20-goal mark compared to what he was back then. So yeah, look, if he can continue that for the entire season, I mean, we really will be sort of talking about Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo numbers, really. I mean, it's on track now for a 50-odd goal season, which is just ridiculous. And he didn't have to do a great deal tonight. The finish actually was better than what I gave him credit for to begin with. It looked like a fairly easy one, but to actually control that and put it in that perfect position where the goalkeeper just can't reach it, and it's not going to go obviously anywhere near the crossbar and hit that and come back, I think was really nice and controlled from him. But yeah, I suppose at the same time you expect that from him. It's probably one of the easier goals that he'll score this season, but you've still got to take that chance. And it's something that Liverpool have done plenty of times this season. So yeah, another 2 goals. Obviously didn't get 2 at the weekend, but before that they'd been scoring 2 goals pretty regularly. Good to see that come back, and not really a surprise really that Salah was the man on the score sheet.
Yeah, he just continues to make it look easy, doesn't he? But talking of making things look easy, Milan's first goal, we've got to talk about it because they didn't really trouble us for most of the night, but a pretty sloppy goal to concede, Matt, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Again, I wasn't massively impressed by Takumi Minamino across the course of the game, to be honest. I think it's the kind of opportunity that you've got to do a little bit more if you want to be a part of the squad long term. I think it's one of those games where I'm sure each of the players who played tonight will have relished the fact that it was at the San Siro. The opportunity to come up in the Champions League in a game like this doesn't come across too often. So I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for him, and he was probably at fault for the goal. Should have put himself in a better position. Obviously, he's not a defensive-minded player, but it's fairly obvious he needed to be in a slightly different position on that front post. Lets the ball get past him far too easily, and obviously Addison puts it back into a dangerous area. So it was a fairly weak goal for Liverpool to concede, but to be honest, even after that, you kind of felt like they'd have enough to go on and win the game, and so it proved, really. Milan didn't really put them under any kind of sustained pressure, and I'm sure we'll talk about the 2 centre-backs at some stage, but they were really good and did everything they had to do, but it wasn't as if they were being bombarded. So yeah, Liverpool kind of gave up a bit of an easy goal there, but at the same time they've scored twice, could have scored more than twice, so it didn't particularly matter in the end.
Yeah, you've led me on very nicely to the next question. I think it is a shame to concede that goal because I thought it was a pretty impressive defensive display actually from Nat Phillipson, especially Ibrahima Konate. What did you think of their performances tonight?
Yeah, Konate I think was superb. I think obviously coming up against Ibrahimovic is a big name, maybe not the same player that he was a few years ago. Obviously turned 40 now. It's going to be difficult to perform at the same levels, but he just sort of did everything he had to do, really. He was really strong, really physical, front foot, which I think we've seen from him the majority of the times that he's played this season. There was a game, wasn't there? I can't even think who it was against now, a couple of weeks ago, where he looked a little bit shaky, but since then and before that, he's not really put a foot wrong. Really good on the ball, really good at passing out as well, which is really impressive. And Phillips alongside him again, obviously deserved an opportunity. I think a lot of Liverpool fans wanted to see him play in this game. Obviously not just for the fact that he is a big part of the reason Liverpool are in the tournament, but the performance that he's put in has shown that he's deserved that. So yeah, I'm sure the Cruyff turn inside the penalty area will live long in the memory. I'm sure that'll be the sort of gift that we see in the future. The similar sort of thing to the Ragnar Klavan one where he jumps over the ball. I think that's the next one really in terms of that sort of thing on social media. So something to watch out for there. But yeah, I think it was a brilliant performance from him. And to be honest, if nothing else, I think he's put himself probably back in the shop window. We've not seen him a lot for Liverpool since the summer, but obviously with that January transfer window just around the corner, I'm sure there'd be a few clubs looking at him because, you know, in a Champions League game against some big players and some big names there, he just didn't look out of place in the slightest. And, you know, if you're a team, well, I was going to say a team lower down the Premier League, but even sort of bottom half of the top half of the table, you'd still be looking at him and thinking he could do a job. So, look, he's not the most fashionable of players, but I think he's put in a performance again today, which just makes you wonder why no one came in for him in the summer.
May not be fashionable, but I think the Cruyff turn has definitely turned some heads. I think I saw a tweet from Dan Kay saying that Franco Baresi wears Nat Phillips pajamas. But let's move on to the fullbacks. About Nico Williams and Tsimikas, a relatively quiet game, but relatively solid as well.
Yeah, pretty solid. I think Nico was the one that kind of impressed me a little bit more. I think particularly in that first half an hour, we saw, you know, a fair bit of link up between him and Mohamed Salah, which is obviously a key part of what Trent does. And it's very, very difficult to sort of hit the same heights as what Trent does in that position. But I think Nico did a pretty good job of that today across the course of it. Maybe got a little bit tired in the second half, but that's not exactly a huge surprise. He's not played a lot of football. It's obviously a big pitch as well. So I think he was the one that kind of impressed me. I think maybe Kostas didn't have his best game. I think there was a few crosses that you'd expect him to do a little bit better in, but look, he's built up enough of a body of evidence so far this season to know that was kind of a one-off. Wasn't particularly impressive, but it's not really an issue. It wasn't as if he was doing anything particularly wrong. It just didn't quite happen for him in an attacking sense. So yeah, look, Liverpool have got the luxury of being able to rotate these players. I think we have known all season long, as well as Kostas Tsimikas has played, that Andy Robertson is number one, and that'll remain the case. That would have remained the case no matter how well he played tonight. But yeah, good to see them both get minutes. Good to have the opportunity to be able to rotate them, and I'm sure, you know, the first choice guys will be back and raring to go against Villa at the weekend.
Well, now moving on into the midfield, I think a lot of the talk before the game was about Milan's, you know, arguably one of the best midfield pairs in Europe, or so it was said, with Tonali and Kessie, who we've of course been linked with. But I thought our midfield ran over them tonight, especially young Tyler Morton. What a display from him.
Yeah, absolutely sensational from him. I think he was absolutely brilliant. Great to see that Max Voltman as well. I know they're two good mates in the academy. They've obviously been on the San Siro pitch tonight playing with each other, which will live long in the memory for the two of them, which was just an incredible sort of sentence to be able to say. But yeah, I thought the Liverpool midfield was a class above. I thought that in the first game against Milan, to be honest. Obviously, Milan scored twice at Anfield, but weren't particularly impressive on that day. I think Kessie is a decent player. He's obviously got a decent amount of quality on the ball, but he just doesn't look quite mobile enough to me to play in that Jurgen Klopp midfield. So obviously available on a free transfer at the end of the season. I'd be very surprised if Liverpool went for him, to be honest, on this evidence. Speaking to a few people who watch Serie A far more regularly than I do and see Milan a lot more regularly, say that this isn't, you know, the true version of Milan. They do tend to play a lot better than this, but purely on the evidence of those two games, yeah, I wouldn't be going anywhere near either of them. Tonali again was okay, but nothing particularly special. And I suppose, you know, that's kind of a typical Serie A midfield, isn't it? Very technically gifted, but maybe not the most physical. I think Liverpool just kind of overran them, like you say. I think Tyler Morton was brilliant. Oxlade-Chamberlain had a pretty decent game, I thought, as well. So, yeah, plenty of positives for Liverpool in that area. But, yeah, Milan, not particularly impressive at the same time.
Yeah, you mentioned there. Good to see Oxlade-Chamberlain back playing as well as he was before his little break from the team. Very important to have the rotation we can through the December period. But I'm going to move forward now to the front line. Obviously, spoken about Salah, but Divock Origi, another goal, once again on the score sheet. How good was he tonight, especially with the two men flanking him, imminently leaving for AFCON? How important is it that he's in the goals?
Yeah. It's always the case that I think Origi is better coming off the bench than he is starting, but it's something he's going to have to get used to. Like you say, with AFCON just around the corner, the more goals he can get, the better. His goals per minute ratio this season has actually been really good, and I think we've sort of seen that extended again tonight. Wasn't hugely involved in everything that Liverpool did. He's not obviously at the same level as the usual front three. Jota and Firmino are far better players than him overall, but if you keep chipping in with goals here and there, if they've got those options, I think he certainly did a lot more than Minamino, who obviously played up there for a little bit as well tonight after he moved forward from the midfield. So, yeah, a really neat finish, a good finish. It's something that we know that Origi can do. He can get himself into good areas. He offers something a little bit different in terms of running in behind. Maybe, again, doesn't quite link as well with the players either side of him, but look, it's something that Liverpool are going to have to live with, and there's far worse options that you could be picking from. So, yeah, the more chances he gets between now and January, I think the better. But, yeah, it's been a good few days for him, and long may that continue.
Yeah, hoping so. But now going to move on to the important returns of Naby Keita and Joe Gomez. How good was it seeing them back on the pitch for the first time in a while?
Yeah, really good, really important. I think that the Liverpool midfield has been a bit of a contentious issue at times, but it's been a good week for getting players back. Obviously, we've seen Thiago and Henderson get the night off tonight. Fabinho has come on just for the 10 minutes. The players who did play did really well. It suddenly looks a lot stronger, and I thought Naby Keita looked quite sharp actually when he came on. Sometimes I think he takes 2 or 3 games to get back into it, but I thought he looked good. A couple of nice turns, drew a couple of fouls, so that was really good to see actually. So I think that's an important thing really for him. I'd expect him possibly to get a few minutes off the bench maybe at the weekend, so that'll be really good. And a positive update as well on Harvey Elliott a couple of days ago, so possibly might see him at some point early on in the new year, certainly back in training if not on the pitch. So yeah, it's suddenly starting to look a little bit stronger in that area of the pitch. Obviously that can change very quickly. We know only 1 or 2 injuries can make that look very different. But yeah, certainly good to see. And Joe Gomez as well. I did wonder how much of the game he might play. I wondered whether he might start and Phillips might get the last 30. But obviously the medical department have said it was better to kind of be the other way around and come on for the last half an hour or so. And yeah, seemed to get through it quite well. Obviously playing at right back is not his favourite position, but he'll get plenty of opportunities this season, I'm sure. And there's been a fair few links actually with him and Steven Gerrard and Aston Villa, which is just never going to happen. I think there's a big role for him to play, certainly in the second half of this season. So, yeah, good to see him back. Didn't seem to do a great deal in the game. Didn't have to, in fairness. But, yeah, I'm sure the 30 minutes will do wonders for his fitness and for his sharpness as well.
Well, speaking of sharpness, I mentioned at the top of the show about the knife-edge situation of the group of death, with obviously Milan, Porto, and Atletico all possibly going through tonight. Milan basically threw it away against us weirdly, but it will now be Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid joining us in the last 16. Are you regretting seeing them go through, Matt?
Well, yeah, slightly, I suppose. It's a team that you wouldn't want to face. Obviously, Liverpool can't face them in the next round, having come out of the group. But yeah, it's one that you'd quite like to avoid, I think, moving forwards. Obviously, Liverpool have beaten them home and away this season now already, so it wouldn't be impossible for Liverpool to get through. But I think it was said when the draw was made, actually, that you'd rather face Atletico Madrid in the group stage when you've got that little bit of wriggle room. If you do lose or you do sort of succumb to their tactics, it can be one that you can get around. Obviously, Liverpool haven't needed to do that, but yeah, I suppose it's one of those. I suppose that the reverse of that would be that if they could maybe get a Manchester City or get one of the rivals for it, maybe they can knock them out for Liverpool. So it can go one or two ways, can't it? But yeah, there's a few big teams I think that are going to finish second either, or have done already, or will do tomorrow night when the groups are finished. So there's still a few big teams in there, but I think they will definitely be one that quite a few teams will want to avoid.
Well, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And I think everyone's going to want to be avoiding us in the draw, which takes place next Monday, the 13th of December. I think it's 11 a.m, Matt. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll be doing a live stream on Blood Red. So you'll be able to watch that along with us. And obviously, we'll analyse all of that as it happens.
Well, I'm sure you'll be keeping up to date with that. From me and Matt, though, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for tuning into the Debrief Live. And we'll see you all again next time on the Blood Red channel. Bye for now.